Hello everyone, this is Sunitha and I am facilitator for grade 6. In your summer holidays, you are able to thoroughly read the atlas by understanding different maps, knowing the significance of imaginary lines, latitudes, longitudes, equator, circles, etc. Right? You also revised your knowledge on neighboring countries of India, on which direction they are located, zones of India, states and their capitals. Right? And what else? You also gathered a lot of information about each state through self explanatory maps like monuments of India, which helped you locate tourist places in India, traditional art forms of India, isn't it? Was it interesting to learn about our rich heritage of our country, India, and about our earth? Now let's move on to understand furthermore major landforms of our earth, our today's topic. Are you all ready? Let's begin. Landforms are natural, geographical, or physical features on Earth's surface. Collectively, these include mountains, plateaus, valleys, plains, coastal plains, hills, deserts, and islands. Now let's understand about these landforms in detail. Mountains. These are the landforms that rise up thousands of meters above the land surface. These are solid rocky masses present in long chains. The tips of mountains are called peaks. A long chain of mountains is called a mountain range. The Himalayan range is made up of three parallel ranges, often referred as the Greater Himalayas, the Lesser Himalayas, and the Shivalik range. These pass through the nations of our neighboring countries, that is India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Bhutan, and Nepal, right? So the Himalayan mountain ranges run 2,400 kilometers across north of India. And Mount Everest is the highest peak in the world. It is 848 meters above sea level. What do you mean by above sea level? We take the range from the sea level and from there we measure it. Now, can you imagine how huge it is? Alps mountain range is another mountain range in Europe. These mountain ranges stretch approximately 1200 kilometers across 8 alpine countries. And what are those? France, Switzerland, Monaco, Italy, Liechtenstein, Austria, Germany, and Slovenia. It is 4,810 meters above sea level. Okay. Andes Mountain is another famous mountain. It is in South America and it is the longest mountain range in the world. Now, what is the next? Plateaus. Let's understand what are plateaus. These are raised flat surfaces around areas bounded by cliffs or steep slopes. A cliff is a steep rock face, especially at the edge of the sea. You find mostly plateaus near the seas. So some famous plateaus are Tibetan Plateau, Antarctican Plateau, and Deccan Plateau of India. Which is called as a Deccan Plateau? Just have a guess. Are we living in Deccan Plateau? Yes, Hyderabad falls under Deccan Plateau, is known as the Deccan Plateau. Okay, the Tibetan Plateau is the highest and the largest plateau of the world. It is also called the roof of the world. So you must remember all these interesting hills. These are lower than mountains. I think you have observed these hills while going to tourist destination. Am I right? So we can say these are lower than mountains but are higher than their surroundings areas. Okay, surrounding areas are a little higher. They're covered with grass and make perfect tourist destination. For example, Nilgiri Hills. Have you been to Ooty? So they are Nilgiri Hills. I'm giving you the one which you might have already went. You can also imagine other places, other hills where you visited. So Ooty is known as the Queen of Nilgiri Hills. Now let's carefully listen. We have low plateaus and high plateaus as well. Understand? They're low and high as well. So low plateaus are good for farming. Like where we are staying now is a is not a plateau, sorry. High plateaus are good for stock grazing. Livestock are nothing but farm animals regarded as an asset. These are commonly defined as domesticated animals raised in an agriculture setting to produce commodities such as meat, eggs, milk, fur, leather, and wool. So, what are known as livestock? The sheep, buffaloes, and cows. These are all domesticated animals. Horse, do you all agree? Yes. Right. So let's move on to valleys. They are low-lying areas of land between hills. You can see a V shape um, formed between two hills. That's nothing but a valley. One finest example we can take is Indus Valley. So civilizations happen near valleys. You all know that, right? So plains. They are vast stretches of open grasslands drained by rivers. So these are found inland and along the coast. The soil of plains is fertile. What do you mean by fertile? Anything you sow there will easily grow. That's why farmlands and everything are farms are basically near rivers and water bodies, right? So even the colonies and everything, why civilizations and everything happen near valleys? Valleys are again near to plains. Remember, plains are rich in forests, farmlands. Coastal plains are located along the sea coast, and many of these are popular tourist spots. So, another form of plains are coastal plains. What do you call as a coast? The plains which are near the seashore. Okay. Have you been to Goa beach or Vishakhapatnam beach? Yes. So some of them more are Marina Beach in Chennai, Ramakrishna Beach, okay, which is also popularly known as RK Beach in Vishakhapatnam. Are few examples. You can also connect more, give more examples to it, right? Okay. All right. Let's move on to hills. Hills are done. Hills are done. Deserts are very dry areas. You all know, right? These get very little or no rainfall. Deserts are of two types, hot or cold. The Thar Desert in India is a hot desert. The Gobi Desert in Mongolia and China is a cold desert. Another feature of desert is they have either rocky or sandy surface. Not all deserts are sandy. Some of them are rocky as well. Okay, so Tibetan plateau is a rocky surface. Just now we read about plateau, so it's a rocky surface, whereas the Thar Desert is a sandy desert. Atacama Desert in South America is the world's driest desert. Not a single raindrop falls there. Okay, so let me ask a question. Do you know the difference between a desert and the dessert that you eat? Yes, DESSERT. Dessert is the thing that you have after a meal or when you have it for pleasure. Now I'm talking about DESERT. So are we clear on that? It's a dry land. Okay. Now let's move on. Now, have you heard of oasis anytime? You must have definitely heard about it. So let's just revise. An oasis is an isolated area of vegetation, generally close to a water source. What is isolated? Where generally it is away from people, away from everything, which is which maybe you find only in the deserts. Okay, isolated is which is away from things. So plants considered collectively, especially found in a particular area or habitat, is known as a vegetation. So I talked about is an isolated area of vegetation. I just gave you the meaning of vegetation. So what vegetation do you see in deserts? Cacti, wildflowers and trees, etc. are examples of desert vegetation. An oasis is a habitat not only for animals but also for humans. Why do you think so? Because it's a place where the things, where plants and living beings can actually flourish and grow. Okay, so Even animals are living beings, so we can see them living there. So caravans traveling in deserts always stop over at an oasis in order to replenish themselves with food and water supply. What do you mean by replenish? In order to survive, people need food and water. So so caravans are again nothing but is a group of people traveling together, often on a trade expedition in deserts. So these people stop near oases and have food and water and then take rest and move on. Hope you all have clearly understood the major landforms of Earth, and it's a revision, right? Don't forget to do the class task and turn in the button. Follow the same with evening task as well. Thank